My sisters all are gorgeous serpents of the ocean. I was born to a nymph as a punishment for loving a fisherman. 8 coiling limbs, twisting tentacles from my core were almost weightless and transparent then, but goddesses would scowl. She is just like Hydra, a monster, and monsters should be hidden in the depth. So I was living in the cave between the colorful reef, collecting corals and shells as we made beautiful brooches. My serpent sisters would visit me asking to style them. I would dye the scales of a tail with kelp, add seashells and frills of seaweed, and tie ribbons in their never ending hair. My fingers would slip through braiding the silky threads together. You are the best at this, Unok, said my sister Liberty. You know, I don't like being called Unok. Call me Ursula. I corrected. The name is the name, she said. Unok was a monster's name. Despite coming from long line of one Qs, I was the only one who could never walk on the shore with humans, as the name would give it away. I'm meeting my fisherman tonight, said Liberty. Do a great job and I might bring you a reward. You know what our kind thinks about mortals. He gave me a necklace of pearls, such a silly man. I can gather pearls if I want to. Where does he think I live? As if you would gather, I said. But I could. She didn't hear my warning, as such was tale of middle child having no voice and being a listener. I think we're all done now, I said, releasing a last braid. I tell you all about it once I'm back, she said and swam away. Here I was alone again in my humble cave of corals and broken crab shells. Next day I found out that my sister never planned to return, that she would be living on the shore as human. Our mother passed the power of transformation on to us, and it was nothing I was proud of. With my own hands I could make any fish in the ocean look better. With a little effort, kelp dye, a fluorescent flower, I could make them outshine the ball. That was the craft, not a shape-shifting ability that just existed there without a grain of personality or work. I guess it requires some skill, and if you're not careful, you could end up with 2 left feet. The next I would bring another line of fishermen, and another sister would be swoon away. Very immortals of the ocean were not a great company, always pointing at each other's flaws. Even more so, there were no love, only affairs and scandals, and hearts as cold and restless as waves of the sea. Every nymph wanted to be worshipped and loved, so we would leave to the land in seek of true feelings. The next tide came, as the moon dictated, and I got my materials ready, the brush to mix dye, the comb to entangle hair, the seashell to make the crown. The next immortal approached my cave, but it wasn't my sister, not even one of the nymphs. It was a mermaid with lush red hair and voice that could soothe any calamity. Any mortal could be hers, even the Poseidon himself if he wasn't married. I heard, "Oh, great goddess, that you can make any wish come true," she said. I felt the pride melt my chest. I have never been great, called a goddess, a monster, and a witch maybe. What do you wish for, my child? I said sweetly. I was ready to lie if I could keep living as divinity. If it pulled me out of the cave, I was ready to perform miracles. Every year my pale skin was growing paler, and my hair became hideously purple from all the dye I mixed together, and yet she recognized my bloodline of nymphs. I want to be human and walk upon shore, dance with their music, and love. Oh, my dear child, they say that mermaid's heart is frozen in the sea. Mermaids surely cannot love. But I do feel it. She grasped her chest and shook her head vigorously. I want to be human. The desire I feel, it will cool off once the tide is over, I said gently. In fact, I've seen this tale many times, and it never ended well. The nymphs would walk the earth soulless and alone, with their power abused, left with nothing but heartache. Never, the little mermaid said. I was a stylist, not a wish granter, but I wanted to try. curious about the land myself. Maybe a mermaid could make it last. You are not of blood of a nymph, I said. Changing your shape would require an equal sacrifice. Your power to mine. O great goddess, I would give my soul, she said. I passed her a seashell and asked, give your voice in return, and I can make you into a girl. She took the conch from me, and I feared, as I knew what it meant to live without a voice, being a pawn to others without being listened to. She will marry a mortal and be his puppet. But she wished for it, and it was not my place to take that wish away. Sing your song, and the shell will take it. And she sang with passion, and her voice was closed into a conch, and if I listened, I could hear entire sea encased in it. Very well. Now, my deal of the bargain, I said. I had to reach into my deepest part, to reach the nymph's blood and use it to change her. It was not easy, as I rarely used that power, and it was not exercised. As the sea rippled, the little mermaid gained her legs, and it was truly a miracle. She couldn't thank me, and in fact she started drowning, so I pulled my energy together and dragged her to the surface. I saw the glimpse of the sun, and sky blue, and the grass much greener, and the flowers that not existed in the bottom of the ocean. How much of the beauty I could create, all the possibility that ocean could never provide me with. With the men approaching the dock, filling their boats with nets and barrels of fresh water, I had to hide into the depths and get back to the cave where I belonged before they hunt me for the multiple limbs stretching out, before they confuse me with the kraken. Mermaid was safe. She was bound by the fishermen and taken care of, or so I would like to believe. Yet I now burn with a new curiosity to see the world that could only hurt. I sipped the voice of a mermaid as consolation, and I sang alone in my cave. For a moment it gave me peace. Yet I wanted to visit the shores again. I wanted to walk them, even if only once. I wanted to feel the sand and bask in the sun all nymphs talk about. It became clear that life could be different, that I didn't need to hide in the cave, that I was indeed part of half gods and immortals. The next tide came, and this time I didn't prepare my brushes or corals. I didn't gather fresh seaweed. I was the one to emerge to the surface, to give in into the draw of the land. For the first time, the unrecognizable feelings swirled in my chest and broke out of my lips in the song, and waves danced to it. It was joy that Gabe couldn't contain. I stretched the weightless tentacles, and they fell down like petals of closed-in bud and shaped a dress around my body. The water was becoming shallower, and the waves pushed me to the shore. The sky today was shrouded with grey clouds, from end to end without a glimpse of sun. I sat on the shore combing my tangled hair with my fingers and picking any seaweed out of it. I won't need a reminder anymore. The wind was trying to pull me back to the sea with its invisible hands, but I resisted and walked towards the lights of the village. It started to rain, and like small needles, cold drops landed on my skin, and yet I was not going back. The first house I came across was a small villa worn out by winds and salt in the air, with paint peeling in places. I knocked. A woman with bags under her eyes and wrinkled face opened the door. I need a shelter, I said with the stolen voice of a mermaid, sweet and refreshing. Some of the tiredness immediately washed away from her face, and she took me in. Oh, dear child, what are you doing out in the middle of a storm? Nothing, I said without telling her my story, as who knows what she might do with the nymph. I heard rumors about cruelty of land and its inhabitants, and for the first time I was afraid, especially now when I found a sense of myself, when I acquired a voice. You look cold. There is a blanket on the bench. Do use it. I will pour you some soup, the woman said. Thank you for your kindness, I replied, wrapping myself in wool knitwork. You can keep my mind off worrying, she said. What do you worry about? I asked. As I imagined, in such a short lifespan, it was simply not enough time to worry. My husband is out in the sea, in the storm. Silly man, she said. She brought a bowl to the table brimful with soup, and vapor was climbing up my nose, the tear playing down my chin as the last drop of the sea was escaping my body. Don't cry. We have to believe he will come back, she said. I'm sorry that the soup has only vegetables in it, no fish. Why did he go during the storm? I asked. As I said, no fish. We think the gods are upset and nets have been empty. We are bringing a maiden to appease them. The sea spat out that red-haired girl to the shore, so no one would miss her. No family. Also, she's mute. So they are going to drown her. That's horrible. Rather one than 100 empty mouths, or so they say. Recently, let's both pray to the goddess of the sea so the storm will end. You mean god of the sea, Poseidon? I asked. Poseidon is the god for sure, but the wives and daughters who are left on the shore pray to the goddess, and only a lady goddess can understand the pain of views of those who are left. She has a name, I said. Her name is Ursula. I have to go now, but thank you for your food and shelter. The winds were growing more vicious, and even I knew that all the ships would be wrecked if the storm continues. It is me you want, Poseidon, I said. Monsters are not meant to leave the sea. Spare the fishermen and calm the storm. Bring them back to the shore, to their family. Luckily my voice was so sweet like a song that it lulled the sea. The woman told the stories about Ursula, the goddess who brought their men back alive. I was not there in time. Little mermaid was drowned, and she turned into foam atop the waves. Every time sea was stormy, I sang my song so women could hear it and know that their prayers matter, that their men would be safe. If you listen, you can hear the waves dancing to my voice.